Welcome back to my channel. It's Dish Dude again, and I'm going to be making a robot that has four-wheel drive and independent suspension on each corner. Now this is just a regular Lego Ev3 robot with its kits, except I had to use more pieces than out of just a regular core kit and expansion kit. I have 6 large gears instead of just 4, and I have 4 of these axle joiners that have the movability of them in order to make the four-wheel drive work, because the normal expansion kit only comes with 2. To start out, I'm just going to build the base wheel. Each wheel of this platform is the same, including the front ones. The front ones just have a little bit different connectivity since you have to connect it with the motors. You start out with a black axle. Actually, never mind. You start out with these, otherwise it doesn't work. Go ahead and connect to one of your black axles. And these are a length of a 4, if you look at it. Slip it on, and then I'm just going to pause there because you have to use these tan connectors with a black axle 90-degree turn. It doesn't matter if you use one of these and then just use the gray pins instead of the black ones. It just has to be one of the ones that moves freely on the connector slot. Slide it in the second hole on the H-frame and do the same on the other side. Like this. Now take your axle and slide it in, and then slide a red connector on. And now is where you're going to use some RC shocks. Now these are just plain old RC shocks you can get at your hobby store. I don't even remember which car I got them off of. What I did for these was I just stuck a black axle underneath the bottom of it. It goes right in. It is a little bit loose, but it doesn't matter. And then on the middle hole here, you want to put it there. Slides right in. And now this axle, when you get it all connected, it makes sure the shock doesn't come off. Now for the final step on one of the wheels. Just take one of your long gray axles with a little stop at the end. Slide it in one of your big tires. Take 2 of your axle spacers, the large gray ones, and slide it on. This just provides the correct spacing so that you can put the tire on without these pieces that stick off getting into the tire. Like that, and just, as you can see, spins freely. Now you want to do this 4 more times, so I'm going to pause the video here. Back in the video, I have made 4 of the houses, 4 of the tires. Now as you can see, 2 of them have the shock in the front, and 2 of them have the shock in the back. Now the reason for this is because when you have 2 sides of a robot, they have to be reversed. Now I'm going to start on the motors. What you'll want to do is take these gray axles and one of these black axle 90-degree things and stick it in facing backwards. This comes in very important later. You'll want to take 2 more of the black ones, stick a small red axle in it, and put it in there. Same on both sides. Just like that. So take one of your really long gray axles also, stick an axle spacer on it, like this, and then stick it through your motor. Make sure it's going towards the outside so that it actually works. Same thing on the other side. Connected together. What you'll want for this one is just 2 motors, your square, all 4 of these little red pins that have the axle housing in one end, and then just a double shaft in the other. Go ahead and slide them into the holes. in the front and connect them. Now what you want to do is you want to take your 9 blocks and stick it on here. For this one, since you'll be using these later, you'll be using it again later, you want to use the blue ones that have the 3 connectors. And put 2 on the outside of each. Like so. Continuing with the motor, you'll take 2 of your black connectors and stick them just in front of that gray axle. Now to get into all the gearing. This part took a little bit of fiddling with the first time I figured it out. So you'll take 3 big gears for one side and 3 for another, and then you'll take 2 small gears, really tiny ones that only take up 1 space for one side and 2 for the other. You'll have your motor there and the big white rod will be here. Take another one of your big axles. This one you're going to use a short gray connector with the back on it. And it's going to go in this one little hole right before you get to the motor mounting plates on the bottom. Go ahead and stick it on. Now you can go ahead and work on the other side. Since these will be symmetrical, I'm going to pause the video while I do that. So now what you want to do to make sure the robot has enough stability, take 2 of the 3 space gray axles and 2 of the gray axle spacers. Slide it in the hole so that it makes sure it connects with this back rod, and take the axle holder and put it there, and then slide it all the way through. So for the 3rd gray gear, it will be this also medium gray sized axle with the back on it. Slide it in, put the gear on, and it's good. Same on the other side. Now you'll take your other 2 big white 15 bars and slide them on the outside. You'll take your small gear and one of your gray tabs, slide it in here in the front. Make sure you hold the gear to hold it in place, and then just slide in the axle. Works out perfectly. Same thing on the other side. Now what you want to do is you want to take 2 more of your spacers and then slide them on the middle gear, just so that gives more protection for this outside one so it wants to stay on. Take the back gears again. This time you'll take your last 2 of your gray ones with the back on it. Make sure it goes in between the back 2 gears and slide it in. And this axle is going to go all the way through into this back part. That way it provides just the most stability so that this part, the outside bar, doesn't want to bend as you're going along. Same thing on the other side, snap them all together and you're rolling. Now back to the tire mounts. You want to take your blue tabs and just put it in each of the black pieces. Going back to the motors and stuff, take one more of these, grab 4 black connectors, and put them in the outside 2 holes on each side. But before you put it on there, take one of these with your gray axle and take a black connector again and slide it in the middle one. And make sure when you put it on the robot, it's facing away from the ground. Like so. Now you'll put on your tires. Just make sure you line up the gearing with the axle and slide it in. And pardon me, I made a mistake. What you'll need to do is you'll need to have these gray pieces, these black series on the outside hole. Now I can show you again. Can be a little bit finicky to get it in there. Now I'm going to pause the video while I adjust the others. Okay, back on. Now I'm just going to go ahead and connect all the way around. So the front tires are going to need the shock in the back of the assembly, and the back one's needed in the front of it. This is just because when you mount the brain, the only way that everything connects right is if you have it this way. So now you've got your assembly all made up. Time to start working on a little bit more fun stuff. I'm going to take this thing out of the way. Start working on the brain. First thing for the brain is you'll just take your last 2 of these with 4 blue connectors. Stick them in all ways. Make sure on the back of the brain, and then stick the 2 in long ways, and then have the little front part going up over the battery. Now to make the rest of the mounting points, you actually do have to go back to the car. Take 2 more of these little axles, stick them in on the right side, take 2 more and then stick them on the left. Now you'll take 4 of the 9s, these are 7s, and just mount them going basically straight up. If they tilt, you can correct that later. On the first one, put 2 of the black connectors in the top 2 holes, and on the second one, which would be the one closer to me, only put it in the top hole. Now it's all ready to be mounted on. If you do need to take 2 off for the process, go ahead. And these back connectors will just go in the back. Make sure they're in the 2 inside holes on the brain, otherwise it might not fit on the robot. Oh, my axle broke and my shot came off. Okay, pause. Now you go ahead and connect the other 2 front ones. Take 2 of your 5 axles, stick 2 of the black connectors in the top, and then the brake has the little L, upside down L on it in the back here. You'll take the 2 top ones and stick it in the top 2 holes. Same on the other side. Those are going to be the mounting points for the shocks. So you'll take your 4 like 20-degree angle pieces that are like little black ones with the hole in the middle. Put one with a blue double-sided connector on it. Slide it in and put on the other side one of these gray axles. Mount it in the 3rd hole from the top in the back, and repeat the process for the other side. Make sure these are angled up when you slide them in, otherwise it won't work. Now go ahead and put the back shocks on, and to keep them on, put one of these pieces on it. And you'll do basically the same thing in the front. Now you're probably wondering, well, if those just are the shock connectors, why do you have this back piece? It's just for more stability for the brain. More stability is always better. What you'll take now is your last 2 of the 7s. Turn the robot around so I can show you, and then snap them on these pieces here, so that they go out near the axle. This is also just for more stability of the robot. What you'll take now is this little piece with the 3 on the bottom and then the axle connector on the top. Slide one on the axle connector, and then you'll take another one of these because you're going to repeat it on the other side. Slide it in the axle connector. Take this piece and then stick it in the axle connector facing, not the axle connector, you saw, facing forward, and do it on the other side. I need to scoop this in one hole. Never mind, have it flipped upside down. Not upright. So take the 2 5s, stick a black connector in one end, take out the back arm assembly, and connect that black connector to the base frame right in front of where it would connect, and then put everything back together. Now the reason you have to take it off is because it goes right where this thing would be, so therefore you can't slide it in on its own. Put it back together like so. I did find a problem, and that's that it would just go like this when it was going over obstacles. And it doesn't do much when it's in that position. So I fashioned up a wheelie bar. And, but before I could fashion out the wheelie bar, I also found out that it would like to slide out like so at every point. So I took a little 3-piece, stuck it in the back side. Did the same on the other side. Now I took 2 really long pieces like this, and these are 11s, in case you're wondering. Stuck them in here. Took one of my 2 last 5s and made a connector for them. This part I put on the inside, not the outside. You'll see why here in a minute. And then took the really, really tiny and thin tires out of the regular kit to make the wheelie bar. Now I use these pieces because they're angled, and the angled part just seemed to work a little bit better. Take 2 and 2 because you're making two sets of the wheelie bar. Slide it through one here, slide it through the other on this one, and make sure it's angled down, and connect it. Now you will be putting these in here, so make sure it's angled back. Take the other connector, slide it through the front axle here. Not the very front one that can't move it. The one that's in between that one and the top of the curve. And then just slide the wheels on. Doesn't really matter if they're straight or not, just put them on. And then make sure that they're free to turn. Put 2 of the black connectors in the back holes and just slide it in. Actually, upside down. Just makes it less likely to wheelie. And then same thing on the other one. Slide it in. Now I noted that this part wanted to flex really bad, so I had to fashion up something else to prevent that. You can take your last one of the 90 connectors from just a regular push-in to an axle, put it in here, put the slide. Now take one of the last triple you have, put the bottom part, the one that only has one axle on it, take the gear. This is really just used as a spacer, and just slide it on. And this gear, I don't know why they made it, but they did. Let me know in the comments below what you think why they made it. Because it just turns freely on the axle. Yeah, there's a little bit of friction, but not enough. You'll take this part you just made, slide it in the middle of the little assembly, and then you'll have it like that. Now, you'll take your last one of the 9 pieces, and you'll connect it to that piece you made earlier, up in the middle. It's kind of hard to see. And take it to that piece you just put on there. Now, if it wants to move, it can't do it. Turning it around for the piece in the front, you'll make something similar, kind of like an anti-sway bar that keeps it together. Take your first T-piece. Actually, for this part, you're going to need 2 more of the big blue axles. No, not axles, connectors. Let me just dig them out of the kit that I have right beside me. 2. Slide one in here and the other one in there. You're good to go. Put a T on the back of it. Don't put a T on the front of it yet, otherwise you won't be able to use it. Now take these connectors and you'll put them on here, kind of like in the back, just in the first little set of 3 holes. It also kind of functions as a bumper, but I recommend using this on only speed of 10, otherwise it doesn't crawl as well. And I mean crawl, I mean I've got tires going like this and it's still making it over obstacles. More or less like an RC crawler. Take your piece there, now your L's are all lined up. Take one in the top. You have to put these on the inside. Now the reason you put it on the inside is so therefore you can use the 5 as the connector. And you want to have one space on the outside of the bar. Now you use your last 5 connector, like on the back, 2 on each side, 1 space in the middle. And connect on this one. You'll also want to be on the inside, otherwise it won't connect to the T properly. Now you see why you couldn't connect the other T. And I don't need any of these anymore. I just need one more of the big gray, big blue connectors. I'll go ahead and smack it in right here. This just makes it more stable because I noticed when I only had it on the back, in the front, it wanted to push off towards the back. Now you're all ready to roll. Just connect 2 of your wires. The shortest ones work just fine from the front to the back. Motor ports C and D, it's the ones I use. You can use any ones you want, doesn't matter. And there you go. It's all made up. Check out my next video to see this in action.